All right, so we've been talking about the Trading with the Enemy Act, the importance of the Trading with the Enemy Act, that everybody is presumed and assumed by default to be an enemy of the United States. Okay, Title 28, 3002, 15A, B, and C. The reason for that is a small debt creates a debtor, a very large debt creates an enemy. All right, when they took our gold and silver back in 33, they created an enemy. They bear the responsibility of taking care of all debts for the American people. Your birth certificate is a bill of lading, it's a warehouse receipt, it is an instrument for which title is transferred upon, and understanding and comprehending the significance of that warehouse receipt, which is also proof of title to the body. Okay, it's a deed, and you have to acknowledge and accept the deed. Just looked up the story of checks and electronic payments. Thank you for your information by Federal Reserve Bank of New York. You bet. That's what we do. We're here just to help assist people in their journey. I myself have done a number of things that most people thought were impossible, along with my constituents, friends, and other savants that are alongside me, teaching me and showing me the ropes of the things they have done. And so I just do these videos to help you guys out as well. I always have a number of people that are behind me giving me guidance, not necessarily telling me exactly what to do. A lot of the people I talk to will not share their paperwork with me because everybody's path is unique and individual in and of itself, and it's important that they put it into their own words. So we're going to get into some more of Trading with the Enemy Act. This time we're going to be delving into Title 50, which is the military code, which has not been enacted into positive law, just so you're firmly aware. It is only prima facie evidence of law, but I showed you earlier in earlier videos where the law is actually located. And so we're going to see some discrepancies and some differences between Title 50 and the statutes at large, of course. But nevertheless, this may help you understand it, so we're going to delve into it. Title 50 U.S. Code, subsection 4306, Alien Property Custodian, General Powers and Duties. This is the U.S. Code again. Title 50, Military Code, not enacted into positive law. The President is authorized to appoint, prescribe the duties of, and fix the salary of an official to be known as the alien property custodian, who shall be empowered to receive all money and property. Remember, 1933, all money, property was all mortgaged, including your offspring and yourself. It was all mortgaged to the hill to float the United States corporation, which you are a preferred stockholder in. Okay, you should be getting dividends and derivatives month after month after month, because everything that is registered with the Secretary of State is in fact an insolvent corporation that you have a vested interest in the United States, due or belonging to an enemy or ally of an enemy. Now, we've already covered that everybody, by presumption and assumption, is considered to be at least bare minimum an enemy or an ally of an enemy. And how we determine an ally of an enemy is, when's the last time you've inquired with anybody you're doing business with, whether or not they're aligned with Germany, Japan, or all these other countries, these foreign entities. All banks, for all intents and purposes, are foreign to the United States, and that would technically make them presumably an enemy or an ally of an enemy, which may be paid, conveyed, transferred, assigned, or delivered to said custodian under the provisions of this chapter, and to hold, administer, and account for the same under the general directions of the President and as provided in this chapter. The President may further employ in the District of Columbia and elsewhere, and fix the compensation of such clerks, attorneys, investigators, accountants, and other employees as he may find necessary for the due administration of the provisions of this chapter, provided that such clerks, investigators, accountants, and other employees shall be appointed from lists of eligible to be supplied by the Civil Service Commission and in accordance with civil service law. Now, if we want to find the delegations of authority, where they get their power from, we're going to look here, and it says October 6, 1917. We realize that that's the Trading with the Enemy Act. Chapter 106, subsection 6 of 40, statute 415, okay? Public law 92 hyphen 310, title 2, subsection 235 of June 6, 1972, 86 stat 214, public law 94-273, subsection 11.5, and April 21st, 1976, 90 stat 378, public law 100-418, title 2, subsection 2501B, August 23rd, 1988, 102 stat 1371. Now, Go into the notes, see what the notes have to say. See transfer of function notes below. Editorial notes, reference in text. This chapter referred to it in text was in the original, this act, meaning the October 6, 1917 Act, so the Trading with the Enemy Act. All they're doing is amending the Trading with the Enemy Act. Again, since the 1933, nothing has changed, ladies and gentlemen. The Trading with the Enemy Act is still there in full weight, force, and effect. All right, so it's important to understand that. Chapter 106, 40 statute at large 411, okay, and that's where page 418, subsection E, talks about full acquittance and discharge, known as the Trading with the Enemy Act, also known as the Trading with the Enemy Act, which is classified principally to this chapter for complete classification of this act to the code, sections 4301 of this title and tables, codification. Section was formerly classified to Section 6 of the former appendix to this title prior to editorial reclassification and renumbering as this section. Provisions that limit the salary of the alien property custodian to not more than $5,000 per annum have been omitted as obsolete and superseded. Sections 1202 and 1204 of the Classification Act of 1949, 63 statute at large, 972, 973 repealed the Classification Act of 1923 and all other laws or parts of law inconsistent with the 1949 Act. The Classification Act of 1949 was repealed. Public Law 89554, September 6, 1966, subsection 8A, 80 statute at large, 632, and reenacted as Chapter 51 of Subchapter 3 of Chapter 53 of Title 5, Government Organizations and Employees, Section 5102 of Title 5, contains the applicability provisions of the 1949 Act, and Sections 5103 of Title 5 authorizes the Office of Personnel Management to determine the applicability to specific positions of employees. And we get into some amendments here. And I'm not going to bore you to death with all of this, but if you want to research it for yourself, that's pretty simple. You just got to get into the notes, all right, in Title 50, 4306, which is always highly advised. Now, to move on, remember 40 Statute at Large 411, the Trading with the Enemy Act. So, we're just going to go through the highlighted green parts because they're the significance. So this is Title 50, 4302 definitions, all right? Subsection 4302, the word enemy as used herein shall be deemed to mean for the purposes of such trading and of this chapter, A, any individual, partnership, or other body of individual or any nationality resident within the territory, including that occupied by military or naval forces of any nation which the United States is at war, or resident outside of the United States and doing business within such territory, and any corporation incorporated within such territory of any nation with which the United States is at war, or incorporated within any country other than the United States and doing business within such territory. B, the government of any nation with which the United States is at war, or any political or municipal subdivision thereof, or any officer, official, agent, or agency thereof. C, such other individuals or body or class of individual as may be natives, citizens, or subjects of any nation with which the United States is at war, other than citizens of the United States, wherever resident or wherever doing business as the president, if he shall find the safety of the United States or the successful prosecution of the war shall so require, may by proclamation include within the term enemy. All right. The words United States as used herein shall be deemed to mean all land and water, continental or insular, in any way within the jurisdiction of the United States or occupied by the military or naval forces thereof. The words end of the war as used herein shall be deemed to mean the date of proclamation of exchange of ratification of the treaty of peace, unless the president shall by proclamation declare a prior date, in which case the date so proclaimed shall be deemed to be the end of the war within the meaning of this chapter. This act, meaning the Act of October 6, 1917, Chapter 106, 40 Statute at Large 411, known as the Trading with the Enemy Act. All right, let's go back. This is Title 50. Whoops, I'll blow this up for you guys. Title 50 U.S.C. 4307 lists of enemy or ally of the enemy officers, directors, or stockholders of corporations in the United States. Acts constituting trading with the Enemy Act prior to October 6, 1917. Conveyance of property to custodian. Voluntary payments to custodian by holder. Acts under order, rules, or regulations. Again, this is all found in 40 Statute at Large 411. If you really want to look at the law, you need to look at Statutes at Large 411. 40 Statutes at Large 411. And so this is going to go list of enemy or ally of the enemy officers, directors, or stockholders. Well, let me tell you something. That birth certificate, ladies and gentlemen, is a stock. Okay? You have stock certificates of corporations in the United States. Acts constituting trading with the enemy prior to October 6, 1917. Conveyance of property to custodians. Voluntary payments to custodians by holder. Acts under orders, rule, or regulations. And I don't think anything here is highlighted. Ah, there it is right there. Remember, we were talking about 40 Statute at Large 411, page 418, Section E. Acts or omissions under rule, order, or regulations, acquittance and discharge of obligations, certificate of authority. No person shall be held liable in any court or for or in respect to anything done or omitted in pursuance of any order, rule, or regulation made by the President under the authority of this chapter. Any payment, conveyance, transfer, assignment, or delivery of money, property made to the alien property custodian hereunder shall be full acquittance and discharge for all purposes of the obligation of the person making the same to the extent of the same. The alien property custodian and such other persons as the President may appoint shall have power to execute, acknowledge, and deliver any such instrument or instruments as may be necessary or proper to evidence upon the record or otherwise such acquittance and discharge for all purposes of the obligation of the person making the same to the extent of the same. The alien property custodian and such other persons as the President may appoint shall have the power to execute, acknowledge, and deliver any such instrument or instruments as may be necessary or proper to evidence upon the record or otherwise such acquittance and discharge, and shall, in case of payment to the alien property custodian of any debt or obligation owed to an enemy or ally of an enemy, deliver up any notes, bonds, or other evidences of indebtedness or obligations, including contracts, or any security thereof, or therefore, in which such enemy or ally of an enemy had anything or interest that may have come into the possession of the alien property custodian, with like effects as if he or they, respectively, were duly appointed by the enemy or ally of the enemy, creditor or obligee. The President shall issue to every person so appointed a certificate of the appointment and authority of such person, and such certificate shall be received in evidence in all courts in the United States whenever any such certificate of authority shall be offered to any register clerk or other recording officer, federal or otherwise, within the United States. This officer shall record the same in like manner as a power of attorney, and such record or a duly certified copy thereof shall be received in evidence in all courts in the United States or other courts within the United States. What record are they talking about? What power of attorney document are they talking about? Ladies and gentlemen, they're talking about the birth certificate, okay? Let's go back. We're not done yet. Bam. All right. Title 50, U.S.C. 4306, Alien Property Custodian, General Powers and Duties. All right. And we kind of already went over that, but we're going to hit it again with the highlighted section because it might just ring a bell with you. I don't know. Alien Property Custodian, General Powers and Duties. Who shall be empowered to receive all money and property in the United States due or belonging to the enemy or ally of the enemy, which may be paid, conveyed, transferred, assigned, or delivered to said custodian under the provisions of this chapter, and to hold, administer, and account for the same under the general direction of the President, and, as provided in this chapter, the President may further employ in the District of Columbia and elsewhere and fix the compensation of such clerks, attorneys, investigators, accountants, and other employees as he may find necessary for the due administration of the provisions of this chapter, provided that such clerk, investigators, and accountants, and other employees shall be appointed from lists of eligible to be supplied by the Civil Service Commission and in accordance with the Civil Service Law. Jurisdiction over certain blocked assets transferred from Attorney General to Secretary of the Treasury. See Executive Order number 1128-1 set out below. Executive Order number 1128-1, transferring jurisdiction over blocked assets from Attorney General to Secretary of the Treasury. Executive Order number 1128-1, May 13, 1966, 31 FR 7215 provided, whereas before October 1st, 1948, the Secretary of the Treasury administering the blocking controls and other restrictions over property and interest of certain foreign countries of their nationals that have been imposed under the authority of Section 5B of the Trading with the Enemy Act as amended, 50 U.S.C. APP 5B, now Title 50 U.S.C. 4305B, by means and of and under Executive Order number 8389 of April 10th, 1940, as amended, Title 50 U.S.C. 4305. Note, now, it's important to know that Title 50 4305B2 was formerly Title 1295A, which is of the banking code. Now, why are they taking it from the banking and moving it over to the military side of things? Well, that's because we're under military occupation, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so a lot of people don't know that. They don't know how to articulate it, but formerly, Title 50 4305B2 used to be Title 1295A, which was under the banking section, okay? And Title 12 is enacted into positive law. Whereas by Executive Order number 9989 of August 20th, 1948, 13 FR 4891, jurisdiction over the property and interest which remain blocked or restricted under Executive Order number 8389, which is in fact what they're doing. They're blocking us from our access and our assets because we have special drawing rights, because we're presumed and assumed to be enemy belligerent combatants of the United States or allies of the enemy or just enemies flat out. On September 30th, 1948, was transferred effective October 1st, 1948 to the Attorney General to aid him in carrying out his functions as successor to the alien property custodian, including, among others, the function of vesting property pursuant to the provisions of the Trading with the Enemy Act as amended, Title 50 U.S.C. 4301 ETSEQ, and whereas by Executive Order number 1064-4 of November 7, 1955, former Title 22 U.S.C. 6131, a note, the Attorney General was designated to carry out the functions of the President under Title II of the International Claims Settlement Act of 1949 as added by the Act of August 9th, 1955, Public Law 285, 84th Congress, 69 Statute at Large 562, Title 22 U.S.C. 1631 ETSEQ, including certain vesting and blocking functions required by Sections 202 of the Act, Title 22 U.S.C. 1631A, and the Attorney General, as designee of the President, exercises control under Executive Order number 8389 with respect to the net proceeds of certain property that are carried pursuant to Sections 202 in blocked accounts with the Treasury, and whereas the function of the vesting property under the Trading with the Enemy Act and under Sections 202 of the International Claims Settlement Act of 1949 have been terminated, and whereas the blocking controls not exercised by the Attorney General under Executive Order number 8389 are limited in application to property of Hungary or its nationals acquired on or before January 1st, 1945, property of the Czechoslovakia, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, or nationals of those countries acquired on or before December 7, 1945, property of East Germany or its nationals acquired on or before December 31st, 1946, and certain securities scheduled in General Ruling Number 5 and Number 5B as amended 8 CFR 511.205 and 511.205B, and whereas the Office of Alien Property through the Attorney General carries out or has carried out the various responsibilities described above, we will be abolished on or before June 30th, 1966, and the Attorney General thereafter will not be in a position to administer blocking controls under Executive Order number 8389 efficiently, and whereas In the interest of efficiency, it is desirable to return to the Secretary of the Treasury jurisdiction over the property and interest remaining subject to such blocking controls. All right. Now, therefore, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, including the Trading with the Enemy Act, as amended, Title 50 U.S.C. 4301 ET-SEQ, Title 2 of the International Claims Settlement Act of 1949, Title 22 U.S.C. 1631 ET-SEQ, and Sections 301 of Title 3 of the United States Code, and as President of the United States, it is hereby ordered as follows. Section 1, the authority granted to the Attorney General by Executive Order number 9989 with respect to property and interest blocked or otherwise subject to restrictions under Executive Order number 8389, Title 50 U.S.C. 4305, is hereby terminated, and Executive Order number 9989 is hereby suspended. Section 2, the Secretary of the Treasury shall hereafter be responsible for the administration of the controls exercisable under Executive Order number 8389. And he is authorized and directed to take such actions as he may deem necessary with respect to any property or interest that remain blocked or restricted under Executive Order number 8389 on the effective date of this order in the performance of the function and duties hereby reassigned to him. The Secretary of the Treasury may act personally or through any office, person, agency, or instrumentality designated by him. All right? So we need to be getting a hold of the Treasury and the Alien Property Custodian. Bam. Hope this is making sense to you guys if you've been following along with the videos. I've been dropping breadcrumbs to you on who to get a hold of, why you need to get a hold of them, and how to do so. And just for a short recap, you got the Attorney General of the state you were born in, Secretary of Treasury of the state you were born in, the Attorney General of the United States, the Secretary of State for the United States, the Office of the President of the United States. All of these entities need to be put on notice, all right? Title 50 U.S.C. 4309, claims to property transferred to custodian, notice of claim, filing, return of property, suits to recover, sales of claimed property in time of war or during national emergency. Look, you guys are all like, oh, well, we were not in a war. Well, you've been in a national emergency since 1933, all right? So you can blow that whole we're not at war shit out the window, because either way you look at it, we've always been in a time of war. We're in a time of war against poverty, against inflation. We're at war with unemployment. We're at war with drugs. We're at war with human trafficking. We're at war with trafficking of children. We're at war with sex trafficking. Any way you look at it, we're at war. All right, and we've always been in a national emergency since 1933. None of it's been suspended. None of it's been lifted. So you might want to pay attention to what I'm telling you here, because you need to make contact with the Alien Property Custodian, the Attorney General, the Secretary of the Treasury for the state you're in, the Secretary of Treasury for the United States, all right? And you need to put them on notice that you're not an enemy, belligerent combatant of the United States, and it's not your desire to do business with enemies or allies of the enemies of the United States. And henceforth, you're coming forward to let them know who you are and what your intent is, and that you need a full accounting done, all right? Subsection 4309, claims to property transferred to the custodian, notice of claim, filing, return of property, suits to recover, sale of claimed property in time of war or during national emergency. A, in general, any person, not an enemy, claiming any interest, right, or title in any money or other property which may have been conveyed, transferred, assigned. See this where it says may have been? Okay, you don't know whether it's been conveyed or not, so you might want to just go ahead and do this anyway. Transferred, assigned, delivered, or paid to the Alien Property Custodian or seized by him hereunder and held by him or by the Treasury of the United States, may file with the said custodian a notice of his claim under oath and in such form and containing such particulars as the said custodian shall require. The President may order the payment, conveyance, transfer, assignment, or delivery to said claimant of the money or other property so held by the Alien Property Custodian or by the Treasurer of the United States, or of the interest therein to which the president shall determine said claimant is entitled. If the president shall not so order within 60 days after the filing of such application, or if the applicant shall have filed the notice as above required, and shall have made no application to the president, said claimant may institute a suit in equity, a bill in equity, in the United States District Court for the District of Columbia, or in the District of the United States for the district in which such claimant resides, or if the corporation where it has its principal place of business to which suit the alien property custodian or the treasurer of the United States, as the case may be, shall be a party defendant to establish the interest, rights, title, or debt so claimed, and is so established, the court shall order the payment, conveyance, transfer, assignment, or delivery to said claimant of the money or other property so held by the alien property custodian or by the treasurer of the United States, or the interest therein to which the court shall determine said claimant is entitled. There it is right there. Just told you how to do it. All right? So for those of you out there wandering around in the dark, following all these people who don't know their ass from the hole in the ground, I'm giving it to you. It's right there. It's in your face. I just told you how to do it. Don't want to hear any more fucking crying, pissing, and moaning. Get off your ass and do something about it, all right? Fuck. It's like paint by numbers here, all right? I'm literally spoon feeding it to you. Title 50, 43, 12. Now remember, Title 50 isn't the actual law. If you want to support this with the law, you need to look at 40 Statute at Large 411. That's what you need to be using. I'm just using this to show you what it says because it says it in layman's terms for people, but Title 50 isn't in fact the law. It's 40 Statute at Large 411 is the law. Now you need to go find the words in 40 Statute at Large 411 that mirror this or similar or the same to it, because 40 Statute at Large 411 is the law. Title 50 U.S.C. 4312, property transferred to the alien property custodian. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. All the property within the United States is transferred to the alien property custodian. Period. End of story. Subsection 4312, property transferred to the alien property custodian, all monies, including checks and drafts payable on demand, paid to or received by the alien property custodian pursuant to this chapter, shall be deposited forthwith to the Treasury of the United States. Bingo fucking bango. It's right there, in your face. The end of the war, such securities shall be sold and the proceeds deposited in the Treasury. All other property of the enemy or ally of the enemy conveyed, transferred, assigned, delivered, or paid to the alien property custodian hereunder shall be safely held and administered by him except as hereinafter provided. The alien property custodian shall be vested with all of the power of the common law trustee. There it is, right there. In respect of all property other than money, acting under the supervision and the direction of the president, shall have the power to manage such property and do any act or thing in respect thereof, or make any disposition thereof, or of any part thereof, by sale or otherwise, and exercise any right or power which may be or become appertent thereto or to the ownership thereof in like manner as though he were the absolute owner thereof. After the end of the war, any claim of an enemy to any money or other property received and held by the alien property custodian or deposited in the United States Treasury shall be settled, that on order of the president, as set forth in sections 4309 of this title, the alien property custodian or the treasurer of the United States shall forthwith convey, transfer, assign, and pay to the person to whom the president any property to who the president shall so order any property of an enemy held by said custodian of the or by said treasurer, so far as may be necessary to comply with said order of the president. All right. It's all right here. Giving it to you. Title 50 U.S.C. 4315, offenses, punishment, forfeiture of property. Check it out. This is how they get punished. If they're not doing their job right, and you're letting them know that you're not an alien enemy combatant of the United States, and that you're making claim upon the birth certificate estate, and you want a full accounting done, If they deny you, this is what happens. Offenses, punishment, for forfeiture of property. A. Criminal liability. Whoever so shall willfully violate any of the provisions of this chapter or refuse to comply with any order of the president issued in compliance with the provision of this chapter shall, and then it tells you everything they're guilty of, right? So you can go read that for yourself. I'm not gonna spoon that feed that to you. I'm just showing you, highlighting the important part, showing you what's important and how you can enforce it. Title 50 U.S.C. 4320, payment of income, etc. by alien property custodian. All right, I think this is going to cover who's responsible for taxes. Hold on. Subsection 4302, payment of income, etc. by alien property custodian. The alien property custodian is directed to pay to the person entitled thereto from and after March 4th, 1923, the net income, including dividends, interest, annuities, and other earnings accruing and collected thereafter in respect to any money or property held in trust for such person by the alien property custodian or by the Treasurer of the United States for the account of the alien property custodian under such rules and regulations as the president may prescribe. There you go. There's your cited authority. It's going to tell you the codifications. It's going to tell you where you can find it in statutes at large, all that good shit. Oh, just went through that. Title 50 U.S.C. 4317, fees of agents, attorneys, and representatives. Does not exceed 10% of the value of such property or interest or proceeds or of such payment. All right. Oh, yeah, it is. Title 50 U.S.C. 4321, payment of taxes and expenses by alien property custodian. A. Authority to pay taxes and expenses, disallowance of claims by enemy, limitations on claims for recovery of deductions and expenses. And basically what this tells you is that the alien property custodian is liable for the taxes. All right? Go read it for yourself. Title 50 U.S.C. 4329, return of property. A. Conditions precedent. The president or such officer or agency as he may designate may return any property or interest vested in or transferred to the alien property custodian other than any property or interest acquired by the United States prior to December 18, 1941, or the net proceeds thereof, whenever the president of or such officer or agency shall determine. 1. That the person who has filed a notice of claim for return was the owner of such property or interest immediately prior to its vesting in or transfer to the alien property custodian or is the legal representative, and 2, that such owner and legal representative or successor in interest, if any, are not the government of Germany, Japan, Bulgaria, Hungary, or Romania. So you got to let them know we're not part of any of that. And B, a corporation or association organized under the law of such nations, provided that any property or interest or proceeds which, but for the provisions of subdivision B. So, in other words, you're just going to let them know that you're not part of any of that. You're not part of the government of Germany, Japan, Bulgaria, Hungary, Romania, Russia, USSR, any of that shit. All right, you're going to swear to it under the pains and penalties of perjury. 3, that the property or interest claimed or the net proceeds of which are claimed was not at any time after September 1st, 1939 held or used by or with the assent of the person who was the owner thereof immediately prior to the vesting or transfer to the alien property custodian pursuant to any arrangement to conceal any property or interest within the United States of any person ineligible to receive or return under subsection A2A. 4, that the alien property custodian has no actual or potential liability under the Renegotiation Act. So right here, they're telling you that you have to indemnify, okay? You have to indemnify the alien property custodian, ladies and gentlemen. You got to hold them harmless. You got to say that even if they made an accounting error, that you're not going to persecute them or hold them liable for it. That's what this is telling you. Act, or the Act of October 31st, 1942, 56, Statute at Large, 1013, in respect to the property or interest or proceeds to be returned, and that the claimant and his predecessor in interest, if any, have no actual or potential liability of any kind under the Renegotiation Act or the said Act of October 31st, 1942, or in the alternative, that the claimant has provided security or undertaking adequate to assure satisfaction of all such liabilities, or that property or interest or proceeds to be retained by the alien property custodian are adequate therefor, and 5, that such return is in the interest of the United States. So when you have to bring suit, or if you're going to put them on notice, you got to let them know that it's in the best interest of the United States to do so, to comply. Okay? Rights and duties. Any person to whom return is made hereunder shall have all rights, privileges, and obligations in respect to the property or interest returned, or the proceeds of which are returned, which would have existed if the property or interest had not vested in the alien property custodian. No person to whom a return is made pursuant to this section, nor the successor or interest of such person, shall acquire or have any claim of right of action against the United States, any department, establishment, or agency thereof, or corporation owned thereby, or against any person authorized or licensed by the United States, founded upon the retention, sale, or other disposition or use during the period it was vested in the alien property custodian of the returned property, interest, and proceeds. By the time you were 18, you were supposed to make a claim against the alien property custodian and let them know that you're not an enemy belligerent combatant, and have a return of all your property, because they've been using your property from the day you were born to the time you were 18, and then some, because you never claimed it back. All right, so they're floating securities, bonds, and insurance off of you to float government for your benefit. All right, and now it's time to reclaim your securities and your assets, futures, annuities, rights, titles, interest, dividends, derivatives, debentures, sediments, general tangibles, general intangibles, chattel security, trust residuals, rents, profits, proceeds. All right, and I'm just showing you where it's found. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less. All right, this is the importance of why we've been going through the Trading with the Enemy Act. Title 50 U.S.C. 4330, Notice of Claim, Institution of Suit, Computation of Time. So that's what you're going to go through, so you understand how it all works, how much time you have, all that good stuff. All right? I'm just going to show it to you. I'm not going to spoon feed it to you. I've spoon fed enough. 2 more. Title 50 U.S.C. 4335, Shipment of Relief Supplies, definition. Go through that. I got 2 more to show you. There you go. Title 50 U.S.C. 4332, Hearing on Claims, Rules and Regulations, Delegations of Powers. All right. Subsection 4332, Hearing on Claims, Rules and Regulations, Delegation of Powers. The office or agency empowered to certain claims under sections 4309A, 4329, and 4331 of the title shall have the power to hold such hearing as may be deemed necessary to prescribe rules and regulations governing the form and contents of claims, the proof thereof, and all other matters related to proceedings on such claims, and in connection with such proceedings to issue subpoenas, administer oaths, and examine witnesses. Such powers and any other powers conferred upon such officer or agency by sections 4309A, 4329, and 4331 of this title may be exercised through subordinate officers designated by such officer or agency. And of course, the last one before we shut her down. Title 50 U.S.C. 4333, Taxes. And who's responsible for the taxes? Where any property or interest is transferred otherwise than pursuant to sections 4309A or 4329 of this title, the alien property custodian may transfer the property or interest free and clear of any taxes, except to the extent of any lien for a tax existing and perfected at the date of vesting. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Love y'all. Talk to you soon.